So this is the 17th year of the enshrinements here at the Hall of Fame, and it's pretty remarkable, the names when you look back in the past of UMD history. So many people say that it's a little school and it doesn't have the national appeal, but you look at the effort that the coaches and the administrators have done over the years to build this program and to get that attitude that we can do anything here that any other university can do. And that was a big reason that my father was so devoted to UMD athletics. We took the hockey team to Russia, the basketball team to Korea, because he felt if there was a world-class university in Duluth, that Duluth would be a world-class city. And that's kind of what has followed on. It started obviously before my father got involved, but it's continued on, the players and athletes, and it's pretty remarkable. Matter of fact, we'd like to honor the people that have already been inducted into the UMD Hall of Fame, if they could stand right now so we could recognize them for their outstanding accomplishments to the University of Minnesota Duluth. Another thing I'd like to touch on, and it's too bad Serdy and Jim Knapp and the guys from the team that had the reunion this last summer, I was humbled that I was invited to that event. And it was remarkable to hear the stories of how much this university and the city impacted these players' lives. And it's impacted mine as well, just to be on the fringe and to be friends and to call some of these guys friends. And Serdy summed it up the best, and I hope I'm not stealing a line from you later, but he said, you know, we could have won the national championship, and we could have been #1 in the country for that year. But he said, even though we didn't win, we all would still be here tonight. And it was true. Even though they came up short in that championship game, the overtime game with Bowling Green, he said it was about the journey and about the process, and that's what we all remember. And I sat there and I go, God, he's right again. It's so many things that you learn in the process, and that's what makes this university and now this Hall of Fame and these athletes that are going into today, they're part of that process that makes this community what it is today. So I'm very humbled again to be up here and to get this started off this afternoon. I'd like now to introduce to you the UMD Athletic Director, Josh Burlow. He's just back from the NCAA tournament, or the NCAA convention in Washington, D.C. Josh?
Well, hello everybody. What a great room of Bulldogs. It's great to see so many former players, coaches, current coaches, alumni, fans, and supporters. So very appreciative of your presence here and the great vibe that we've got in the room tonight. Congratulations to our inductees. You had some success that has led you to something pretty special. You're joining an impressive group of Bulldogs who have done amazing things. And while we congratulate our inductees and our honorees, what we really want to do is thank you. It's the foundation of what you accomplished that has enabled us to take Bulldog athletics to be what it is today. The Bulldogs are in a good place. We have had a lot of best of moments in the last couple of years. We had our best soccer season ever. We had our best women's cross country finish this year. We've had tremendous football and volleyball seasons, but it extends well beyond that. And what we've codified in the last couple of years, which I think are traditions that go way back, are what we call the 3 C's: classroom, community, and competition. And what's happening in those 3 areas at present is really impressive. This fall, we had our best academic semester ever. More than 400 student athletes had a 3.19 GPA. And that's on the heels of our Division II sports being 6th nationally collectively in Division II. Pretty impressive things. I know our academic advisor is hoping a couple more grades come in and we can get to that 3.2 threshold. So we look forward to that. But seriously, thank you for what you've done to build this foundation. We're excited about the direction of Bulldog athletics and appreciate your contributions to get us to the point that we're at. So we'll get on with the program. Thank you for the support, and we'll see you at the games. Go Bulldogs.
It's time now to introduce to you the class of 2015 for the University of Minnesota Duluth Athletic Hall of Fame. And our first presenter was a 3-year center for the Bulldogs during the 1980s and remains a very active supporter of the UMD football program to this very day. He's a great all-around guy, and really, he's somebody that kind of embodies what being a Bulldog is. He's a guy that's been there as a player, now as a supporter, and a guy who's here to introduce our first member to the Hall of Fame today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Mike Peacock.
I'm a little more nervous than Jim is up here, I'll tell you that. I have the great honor to introduce Gary Birkholz, who was a teammate of mine. And the first thing I remember about Gary was just his sense of humor. He was just always cracking jokes on the field. And for some of the older guys here, Coach Miloski could get a tinge negative sometimes, you know, and make the practices a little rough. And one time he was screaming at us in the huddle about, give me a guard, I need a guard, I've got 10,000 guards. And Gary said, where do they all shower? And it just broke everyone up. You know, and that stuff was going on all the time. And one time in practice, Coach Miloski decided to do a scoop block, which I still believe is impossible, but that's neither here nor there. So Gary and I are on the line of scrimmage calling, scoop, scoop. And Miloski screams at us, you two jackass geniuses. Now take those words separately. Jackass is not real good, but then a genius on the other hand, so he was covering all his bases there. He said, I know D linemen aren't that bright, but I think they can figure this out. So you've got to come up with something better than that. So at the time, again for the people that are a little longer in the tooth here, there was a Happy Days TV show on. And Ron Howard played a character called Scoop Cunningham, Richie Scoop Cunningham. So the next day at practice, we're out there yelling, Scoop, Scoop, not Scoop, we're yelling Cunningham, Cunningham for our dummy call. Or when the call was active. And Miloski just went, ugh, and just threw up his hands. He couldn't take it. So we had a lot of fun with that. And again, I'm bringing up Coach Miloski because he was such a big part of, obviously, the football program and everything. Probably about 20-some years ago at a golf outing, Sarge and I asked him, if you could make your all-time team, who would you pick for 40 years? You know, I couldn't do that. Boy, you guys, it's like you all played together. Pat Delaney would be on that team, he said. And then he, I'd really like to think, and I was mentioning this to someone earlier, Gary was kind of the first big guard who could run and move and hit. And the linemen went from, I wish Hannah was here, could tell us exactly, but you know, 200, 210, 220 to Gary at 250, 260. You know, it was that jump. And I'm very confident that Gary, there's other guys, because Gary could really play. And there's other guys up here that would have no hope of playing in the last 25, 30 years. But Gary could have played today. He was big, strong, tough, fast, and he went after it. And actually, we were playing UWS one time, and they had a nose guard that was just a monster. And I still have nightmares about him. And he was throwing me around like a pit bull with a stuffed animal. And Coach Miloski screamed from the sidelines, 23 special, which is a play where we double-team the nose guard. I engaged him, the guy was getting ready to slam me on my back again, and Gary came from the side, and he steamrolled this guy, and he went over the top of him and drove him into the ground, and you could just hear the air come out of this guy. And in my time up at UMD, it was the hardest hit I ever saw. I was hoping Coach Miloski would yell like he did all the time, run it again, but he didn't. So really, and then the last thing I wanted to say about about Gary, really the most important thing was the way Gary led his life as a young man. After Gary passed away, I remember Sarge and I and Ogren and a few of the guys talking about Gary, and we thought for our football team, there was no one on our team that was more ready to meet his maker with his walk in faith than Gary Birkholz. And I am very, very confident that St. Peter had those gates wide open and Gary went in right away, that there was no hesitation. He was that strong in his faith, and it's already been 30 years. It's amazing, but he sure had an impact on a lot of things up here. So now, Dave, you're on, man. Gary's buddy, Dave.
Thank you. Just have a couple words. Last August, I got a call from Bob at the UMD Athletic Department. And he left a voicemail on our home phone. And I just went through the whole thing with Bob and UMD Athletics. And I got some surprising news, or happy news for you. And I'd like you to give me a call. I thought, okay, it's another fundraising thing. Just delete it and go. But my son was sitting there, and I said, John, will you look up Bob's name in the book, or online, and see what he is? And he says, oh, he's in charge of he's the co-chair of the Athletic Hall of Fame. And I thought, it can't be. I said, and my thought in my mind was, yeah, 30 years later, 29 years later. And I talked to my sister, and she said, no, there's no shot. That was it. And my sister and I cried a little bit, because it's kind of amazing that someone can have an impact like that so many years later, and people still remember the stories, and still remember the activities that he was involved in, and the legacy that he left. And I don't know if many of you know much about what Gary, how he got here. He came from BYU as a pretty angry young man with a somewhat troubled past, and he left here as a gentle giant. And his 3 keys to growth here were his faith and devotion to Jesus Christ, and his family and friends, and meeting and marrying Gary, probably one of the greatest things in his life. And then Coach Malosky and the staff made a man out of him. And his teammates, he loved his teammates and loved this university like you wouldn't believe. And so on behalf of our late parents, Donald and Barbara, my sister Shelley, myself and my children, Aaron, Kelly, and John, and our relatives in attendance that have come a long way for this great moment. And our relatives that couldn't be with us, and the others that have left us, it's a heartfelt thanks from our family to you, this university, for the recognition in this timeless honor in Gary's memory. Thank you.
Our next presenter is a member of the UMD Hall of Fame already. 10 years ago, Coach Mike Sertich was inducted, and he was a great mentor to me as well, because, as you know, I mentioned the nepotism part, so I kind of got thrown into some jobs I really shouldn't have been doing, and he had to deal with my interviewing skills, or lack thereof, for many seasons, and I truly thank him, and I hold a lot of his advice still to heart. And one of the things he told me was, he had met my wife Patti, and he said, you know what, you better not screw that up, because it's a wonderful person you have there. And it was the great words that the coach said, Patty's still with me, still 30 years, so that's a good thing. Thank you, Serdy, for that. But ladies and gentlemen, he's a guy who's done so much for the University of Minnesota Duluth hockey program. As we mentioned, got him to the one breath away from the national championship, but he did so much more for so many players. Our next presenter, Mr. Mike Sertich.
They say if you hang around here long enough, you'll get to come to these free meals quite often. And, the guys that I had a ability to be around that team in the 80s, I think there's 8 of them that are enshrined in this place. And it's just awesome to see each year the new ones come. I got to know Gary Birkholz on a one-on-one level. He helped me and Dukes Knudsen get the Fellowship of Christian Athletes started at UMD. And he was an inspiration to me. And I saw a lot of myself in him. And he and I had a pretty nice relationship. Nice to see Kendall Kelly here. He and I had a special relationship. He didn't like my fishing skills class, but we had a special relationship. It's nice to see Pati Rolf here. She was just down the hall from me a couple doors, and I watched those kids be born, and now you got one that's teaching English and another one going to college, and you're getting old. Nice to see Dale Race here. Welcome back. Hardly a day goes by when I go down that road I don't think of you. And nice to have you back in town, and your wife as well. Nice to see Brett Hauer here. I didn't get a chance to present him, so I'll let my able assistant do that. The guy that I get to present today is very special to me personally. When Matt was a senior in high school at Aurora White Lakes, he had committed to Michigan. And his coach, although was going to give him his blessing to go to Michigan to play, his coach told him in no uncertain terms, as did many of the people that were close to him there, told him that if he went to UMD, the kids at home would be able to see him play, fans that knew him would be able to follow him, and he could always be remembered. That was a pretty good piece of advice you received. And so when we recruited you here, I figured if that advice was so good, I might as well recruit your coach too. So I got a package deal. I got Matt Christensen and Jim Knapp in the same year. Matt and I became very good friends over the course of time, and Jimmy Knapp and I were kind of glued together at the hip. But people never forgot you. And they always do remember you, they always ask about you. The kids at home probably still follow you, and you know that. The thing that really impacted me is one of the things that we used to put in the hands of the kids was the word trust. You need to trust your teammates, you need to trust your coaching staff, you need to trust the program and the direction that the program is going, but it comes down to trust. And here's Matt Christensen, a guy with a full ride to the University of Michigan, coming to Duluth to play for a guy that's an interim coach. Now you talk about trust. And he came here to play for me for what, and I was only here for a year. Well, it all worked out. Matt went on to become an All-American, second leading point total scorer in UMD hockey history, played on the line with Billy Watson and Tommy Herzig, and the combined total of those guys is nearly 600 points. I don't think you'll see that today. As I said to you before, there were 8 kids that played on that team that are enshrined in this hall. And it's really gratifying to see that the hall has reached out and the school has reached out to honor Matt today. And it gives me personally a very great deal of pleasure to present this year's inductee, Matt Christensen.
Surdy, for a wonderful introduction. I'd also like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for my induction. It was truly an honor when Rick notified me. I was in shock. To be honored with the other 5 inductees today is something that I'll never forget. Congratulations to the other 5. When I was growing up, I loved the game of hockey. There wasn't much else to do. Bowl, play basketball. There were no computer games like today. So hockey was my life. My family says that I'm a poor loser. I am. I hated to lose, and I still do. When I was in squirts, about 8 or 9, 10 years old, we had a coach who hated to lose also. The late Bob Carpenter. He instilled the drive in me to this day. Since I was 8 or 9, I would go to practice and then go to the outdoor rink. Not always, but most days. I remember playing shinny hockey. You know, shinny hockey is you get 20 guys on 20 guys and you play against each other. When you get the puck, you look up and there'd be 2 defenders on you. You look to pass the puck, you didn't want to get it stolen. It was my puck, it was our puck. So as the years went on, playing hockey with my buddies was an important part of my life. So as a senior, I was offered a scholarship at Michigan. But I went off to Michigan for a visit, and they showed me everything. Football orientated, that is. They had, oh gosh, no, I can't think of his name. He just won the Heisman Trophy. But, so I checked them off my list. Boston U was the next trip, too far. My parents couldn't come see me play all that often. So I checked them off my list. So I went to UMD on a visit, and it felt right at home. So UMD it was. I still remember my first day at UMD. We were 13 freshmen, and so we all had to say who we were, where we're from. We all got around, and all of a sudden there was one player left. It was Norm McIver. So Normie says, I'm Norm McIver. I'm from, what? I said, I'm Norm McIver. I'm from Thunder Bay. I play defense. And I elbowed Jim. I said, has this kid seen this league? I mean, we had Jim Graven, who's 6'4", you know. So as it went on, we had like 15 to 20 days of dryland training. So we got all new skates, all new breathers, new shin pads, new everything. So Norm goes out there. I look at him, I'm going, that kid can play anywhere he wants to play. He was that good. I've been very fortunate to play with numerous All-Americans and past professional players, such as Bill Watson, Brett Hull, Tom Kerbers, Normie, Jimmy Johnson, Guy Goslin, but also the likes of Mark Onnicon and Jim Toninato, Tom Herzig, Bob Loxo, and the rest of the UMD teams. We had a great 4-year run. I'll never forget the memories, and thank you. And also thank you to the coaches, Coach Surdich, Coach Knapp, Coach Kulik, Coach Valisano, Coach Tim McDonald. I learned so much from you. As I look out into the audience, I see my brothers and their wives, aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews, nieces, and friends. Thank you for sharing this day with me. And I have to give special thanks to my parents. To Mom, thank you for being there for me every day. And as for Dad, he worked 2 jobs for 17 years. A postman during the day, a police officer working the afternoon and midnight shift. That's 16 hours a day for 17 years. To me, that's quite a dad. He worked the 2 jobs so that I love you and I'm very happy to have you in my life. And to my girlfriend, Roxy, thank you for being there for me. In closing, I have to again thank the committee for my induction to the UMD Hall of Fame, and to all the Bulldog fans, thank you.
Congratulations, Matt. Honor well deserved. Our next presenter is also a member of the Hall of Fame. Back in 2004, He ran the Bulldogs men's basketball team when hockey was ruling the roost, and he made the basketball program stand up, and everybody noticed what a great job he did with that program. And he had some tremendous players, and he's here tonight to present one of his players to our Hall of Fame. He walked away as the sport's all-time winningest coach. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dale Race.
You know, Cert and I we had a lot of things in common. We really did. But one thing we had, listening to all these guys that you had, Cert, you know, I could tell you had some great players. And you know, I tell everyone all the time, the only reason I was successful here is because of the guys that I had. Anybody could have coached the guys I had and won. Because I had some great guys, and the guy that is going to be inducted today is certainly one of them. You know, I came here, it was 30 years ago this season, the 84-85 season. And Kendall was a junior. So I inherited Kendall, and you know, thank God I did. So for 2 years I had him, and you know, no one did more for a team that I was involved with, and I coached at the collegiate level for over 40 years. No one did more for a team than Kendall did for the team, those two teams that I coached. Kendall never came off the floor. Even if I would have had somebody that I thought I could put in for him, I wouldn't have put him in for him, because Kendall was a guy that played, if the game was on the line, and we had a lot of games on the line, those 2 years, you know, Kendall, I always said, you know, your better players at 80% are better than your shitty players at 100%. And trust me, Kendall at 60% was better than anybody else I had. There's no question. You know, Kendall led us in scoring. He led us in assists. He shot over 50% both years that I coached him. And you know, if you pay attention to all the basketball in this day and age, nobody does that anymore, especially from the position that he played. He shot 80% from the free throw line. You know, he was a tremendous offensive player, quarterbacked our team. But probably more importantly than anything else, Kendall pointed at our defense. And when I came here, our defense was predicated upon ball pressure and picking the ball up at the timeline, the half-court line, and putting pressure on the basketball in the half-court. And Kendall was absolutely tremendous at that. One of the best guys I've ever had, you know, putting pressure on the ball. And, you know, ball pressure is what made our defense work, and our help side defense made it go, but Kendall was the quarterback of that, without a doubt. You know, if you really want to be good in athletics, I think in life in general, you have to perform or play at a very high level all the time. No plays off, no excuses, never surrendering. Kendall was really, really good. No doubt about it. You know, this kid never let me down. There's not a time when I ever thought that Kendall wasn't giving me all he had. I could always count on him. His passion for the game, his commitment to the team, his willingness to do whatever it took to win, made him a very, very special player. And the moniker that he picked up, I don't know who gave it to him, was Special K. Kendall Kelly, Special K, but certainly Kendall was special. You know, teams in athletics are built around the values of family, togetherness, sacrifice, trust, helping each other. That's what teams are built upon. And I really have always said the biggest compliment that you can pay to a student athlete is to say that they were a team player. Kendall Kelly was the epitome of that. So personally, I will always be indebted and certainly tremendously grateful for Kendall's loyalty to me, for his effort to our team and to our program, and his contribution that he made to this university. You know, I've always felt like, you know, people never really you know, realized how good Kendall was when he played here or even afterwards. You know, I did and I do. And now the university makes it known as well. So it's with a great deal of pride, and heartfelt pride, that I introduced Kendall Kelly into the University of Minnesota Duluth Athletic Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Coach Race. I'm going to do something a little different today. I have no paper, no pens, no tricks, and I'm going to tell you why. I've been on a, excuse my language, a hell of a roll. August 30th, I got married to a wonderful young woman right there, Kendall Kelly, stand up. I got one of my best buds in the world, another UMD alum, Ron Berry, that made the trip to the great north with me, Ron. My other best friend couldn't make it. He almost risked a write-up at work to be here. And you know, he said if he could, he'd be walking to the door any second. So if you see me look at the door, I'm looking for him, all right? On September 20th, I was inducted into my high school Hall of Fame match. And this is why I don't have a paper right now. Because in all of my, I went to Pius High School, one of the top schools in the state of Wisconsin. UMD, all my scholastic knowing at UMD, so I took a whole week and I wrote an eloquent speech to give. And as I stood there and I began to speak, I blew it. Gary, I started crying like a girl. So I got this eloquent speech and I started crying, and when I can finally get myself together, Certy, I can't read it. You know why? Because it's all wet and it ran. So for the next hour, I spent sitting in my chair, mad as hell, because I didn't get to say what I wanted to say and everybody did. So I coached 4th grade boys and I told them this story. So you know what they told me? They said, don't screw it up. Don't take the paper. That's why I don't have the paper. So, but I do want to say thank you. When Gary called and told me that I was going to be inducted, I just about jumped through the phone and kissed you in the mouth. I was just over the moon. I never, you know, in 30 years, I never thought that anybody would call me to say that they appreciated what I had done. So thank you. Coach Race. You know, I got a million stories about Coach Race, but I'm going to keep this short. When Coach Race came on the scene at UMD, it totally changed everything. I was on my way out of the door, and this guy started, Matt, you've been to my house when we were here. He gave us a list that said, this is what a Bulldog is, and we were violating every rule. You know, so it's 4 of us. Chris Newman, everybody knows it, so we make a decision, we're like, what are we gonna do? So we started out, it was 4 of us, we started, and we started doing around the track. And I never forget this. We're running, and he's yelling and screaming, grabbing at his crotch. And he's telling us about reaching for the golden ring. And I was the fastest dude on the team, so naturally I'm out front, and he won't let me be second. Because every time I lay back, he's yelling my name. Man, if you only knew the names that I called you, Coach. I'm glad you didn't hear it. But he made such an impact on the program in my life that today, when I coach 4-year-olds, you know what I'm saying? Reaching for the golden ring. And I know, Matt, they're going, what the hell is he talking about? I'm going, get on the line and up the line. And they're saying, where is the line? You know, so this guy is like a ninja Star Trek warrior, because he gets in your mind, man, and years later you're doing what he does. So I'm coaching like he's coaching, and I'm doing everything except grabbing my crotch, Gary. That's the only thing that I'm missing. I'm going to wait till I get to the high school level for that, Coach. I just want to say that I am totally over the moon. It feels good to be back home. And you know, it's amazing that how people impact your life and they're really not a part of your program. Serty, I always remember you. You know, Serty is the one that, I didn't know anything about hockey. What the hell is hockey, right? And I remember Serty, I don't know if you ever remember this, you tells me, it's just like basketball, just pass and move, dump and chase. Get the hell out the way. And I go, okay. So I just want to say that it is an honor to be here. I am a Bulldog for life. Go Dogs.
All right, I'm glad we came to our PG-rated event. It's got a little warm in here, isn't it? I have water up here. Making our next presentation, if we're ready for another. He arrived at UMD back in 1972 as a defenseman from up near the Canadian border in International Falls. 10 years later, he signed on, as Serty told us, as his assistant. And he became one of the greatest assistant coaches in UMD history. 18 seasons he was on the Bulldog bench. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round, warm of applause for Mr. Jim Knapp.
Kendall, how do you follow that? That's a tough thing to follow. First of all, I'd like to the Hall of Fame. Gary and Kendall were students back in my early years, and Pati, as a colleague and a friend, you're the person that made this program, that volleyball program, what it is today. And your fingerprints are all over it, and congratulations. It's very, very awesome to call you a friend. Also, I'd like to mention Matt. And if you think about it, with Matt, I coached Matt 3 years in high school, and then 4 years in college, so 7 straight years. There should be some award having to put up with me that long. Jimmy Tenonato and I were talking last night, and we were talking because of how Matt is as far as a quiet individual, what the over and under would be on the length of Matt's speech. We set the over and under at 1 minute. And that's a true story too. So awesome. I was very, very pleased to hear you, because you're so quiet and very neat. I'd also like to take this time to congratulate Mr. and Mrs. Hauer. Mr. and Mrs. Hauer set the foundation to make Brett be the person that he is. And so this award is as much for Mr. and Mrs. Hauer as it is for Brett. I'd also like to take some time and congratulate Hillary. And Hillary is so rock solid of an individual. She made life for Brett that even keel that made him what he is also. I was just telling her that in the department that I teach in our college, Hillary was one of our graduates at UMD. And one of the professors in our department made a statement, and she said in our department meeting, "Has anyone here ever seen Hillary not smile?" And that's the person that she is. And as we all know, in all parts of life, and especially in athletics, you have the ups and the downs. She was that rock that made Brett be able to do what he does. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the 2 daughters. If you pick up a Duluth News and Tribune, in the fall of any one of the past years, you would read about them as athletes also, being tennis players. Also, I'd like to thank Josh Burlow and his staff, Gary, Karen, Bob, the whole group. Being on the campus athletic committee, which is regulated by the NCAA to be an oversight of the athletic department, as being a faculty member, what I'm required to do, along with the other people on the committee, is to make sure that there's a strong student in the student athlete. And I can tell you that this group of people is making sure that we are proud of the people that go through our institution. And I want to thank you from the faculty group on what you folks do. I could spend a lot of time here talking about the awards and the journey that Brett had. First team All-American, first team All-WCHA, drafted 71st by the Vancouver Canucks, playing for multiple NHL teams, playing professional hockey for a decade and a half. But that's only part of the story. And I'd like to just talk about the rest of the story. The rest of the story started off when we were recruiting Brett. And Brett had an opportunity to go to just about any place. A lot of pressure was for him to sign with Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, along with Minnesota. He chose UMD. One of the questions when he came is why did UMD take so long to make that final offer and make an offer to me when everybody else wanted him? I said, someday I'll tell you what we were thinking. I'm going to tell you right now, Brett, along with everybody else, is that our coaching staff had a policy, and this is the only thing that was holding us back, was that we didn't want the athletes smarter than the coaching staff. So we were very, very tentative of making an offer to Brett Hauer. When he came onto campus as an 18-year-old freshman, he had roommates, and some people know Craig Crackus, Joey Biondi, and Derek Plant. And the four of them all were 18 years old, mostly from small town, northern Minnesota. And here is their chance away from home. And the very first day, they jump in the car, Crack's car, I think it was, and they're driving to Target to get the supplies for their apartment. Well, the discussion was talking about that went on was talking about what it's going to be like to play college hockey, what it's like to be going to college, what is it going to be like to try to get dates. All those conversations were going on the trip there and back. So one of the people, and I think it was Joey Biondi, said, yeah, I wonder how hard it is to get a date. Brett said, I have an idea. So they just bought one of those dry erase boards, and so as they're driving back from Target, he's writing notes. Would you like to go on a date? And every car that stopped at the stoplight that had females in it, he would put it up on the window. Well, the girls would start laughing and pointing and speed off. So life was a little bit more difficult than they thought it was going to be, and that was a rocky start as far as the old male ego, which is very fragile, as we know. By the way, I think that's a social media precursor, so I think you had that. In coaching Brett, it was very interesting. Brett, who has graduated in engineering with a 4.0, and being awarded as a Student of the Year in the WCHA, is something that he's very proud of. But in coaching Brett, one of the things that was very noticeable right from the get-go was that Brett would always ask the question, why? And it was never questioning the coaching staff. But the way that an analytical person is in order to perform, he has to think it before he does it. and he has to understand it, and he has to understand why and how this all fits and works together. So even as a freshman, it was, okay, why are we doing that? Also, one of the things that he wanted to do is he wanted a lot of feedback. And every shift he would come off the ice, okay, what do you think? Should I have done this or this? And his analytical approach to the game made him such a high level at a later time, drove us as coaches nuts at the beginning. And so what Brett had going on is that Brett was harder on himself than any one of us coaches. If Brett made a mistake, he's the one that would bring it up before any of the coaches would. And so with all those things, his roommate said is that he was such a perfectionist, except with dishes and laundry. And yeah, and he still doesn't know how to do those. So with mistakes and being a perfectionist, Serty had to do a few things. One of the things that Serty would do is if Brett made a mistake, and there wasn't many times that he did, but when he made a mistake, Serty would come down to the side of the bench with the defenseman, and he would yell at Brett to let it go. Because for someone that wants to do things the best that they can do and be a perfectionist, we had to make sure that didn't haunt him for a long period of time. He was harder on himself than anybody else. Also, I just wanted to make mention that in the old days, I was like the academic advisor for all the hockey players, and today they have a person to do that. But one of the things that I did is I called over to engineering, and I called everybody's advisor at the program that they were in. But I asked the person over in engineering about Brett Hauer. And something that was said was very profound. The professor said that if you know any athlete or non-athlete that has the qualities of Brett Hauer, send them our way. And that says more from an outside person saying of what kind of person he is than any other person that could. His roommates were very concerned because one thing that Brett did is he never slept. The roommate said that he studied so much that they were concerned that his athletic performance would then decrease as the season went on because he never slept. He was always studying. And that, again, proves that student athletes can excel in both the athletic and the academic worlds. And there's one of those people. The last thing I have to say is that Brett is someone that doesn't look for what they get, but what he gives. And the thing that hit home with that is that a little while ago, a student athlete that is a student of mine said, hey, we had this old guy come and give a presentation on how to write resumes, how to interview for jobs, and how to prepare us after our athletic world is done. The guy that played hockey, what was his name? I'm not sure, but I'll find out. He came back, Brett Hauer. That's an old guy right there. But it gives an example of giving back to the program, of not trying to take from the program, but giving back to the program. And I'll tell you what, that says a lot about him as a person. You know, so Brett Hauer, as a son, as a husband, as a father, as an alumni, now I'd like to introduce to you Brett Hauer, the inductee into the Hall of Fame, Brett Hauer.
Wow, that
was more detail than I expected. I feel like I have to stand up here and defend myself a little bit. That changed everything I planned. Kendall, I'm not nearly as eloquent as you are, as funny, and I do need my papers because I want to make sure I don't miss anything today. So, thank you, Napper, for those really kind words. You know, I know this Hall of Fame induction is, you know, mostly, I'm sure, athletics, but I appreciate you bringing in some of the other stories you talked about. Especially the one that you gave my daughters and my wife a lot of ammunition now. Now that my daughters are at that teenage dating era, and now they know that story about me asking for dates with a whiteboard. That's not real good. And the analytical mind, you gave a couple people ammunition there as well. My wife, I know, was nodding when she heard that. I'm kind of known as the analyzer in our house. I can analyze grocery store purchases, anything. So that's true. And my manager was nice enough to come up today from Minneapolis, and the word analytical has also come up in our conversations in the past as well. So I'm sure I'll hear about that in the future too. So that's fun. I would like to make sure I congratulate all the other inductees. It's just been amazing to hear your stories and hear the passion about UMD and your teammates and, you know, the families and just really how special Duluth is, and I feel the same way. You know, I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee. Obviously, it was a great honor when I found out about this. You know, obviously there's a lot of great hockey players that came through UMD, and never really thought of myself in that light necessarily, and so it was a real honor and a real shock. So I thank you for recognizing me that way. I'd also like to thank God. I know this is a cliche we hear about sometimes, but you know, I believe without Him nothing is possible. He definitely had a plan for me. You know, Napper told the story a little bit. You know, I grew up in the cities. I wanted to be a Gopher as a young player. I mean, that's all I really knew. That's what I was immersed with down there. And I remember, you know, very similar to what you said, Matt, you didn't really want to go anywhere else. I wanted to be in Minnesota. And so I wanted to be a Gopher. And then I went on my recruiting trip and kind of got to know, you know, the people at the U a little bit, and I just didn't feel it was right, to be honest. And then I was fortunate enough to meet Serdy and Napper and Glennie Kulik, and I realized really quickly the type of people, if that's what represents Duluth, that's where I want to go. And I knew that I wanted to make my way up to Duluth and give my parents the opportunity to come up and be able to, you know, enjoy the college career, and so that was real special. So, and obviously, you know, getting back to God, I believe those types of things, those opportunities happen for a reason. And you know, when I wasn't sure where to go, or I thought it was the U, all of a sudden it changed to UMD, and I am so thankful that you guys gave me that opportunity. I also thank you for everything, obviously, you did with hockey and teaching me about life. You know, I was telling Napper the other day when we sat down together, I had my feelings why there were so many successful players that came out of UMD that went into pro hockey. You know, the Gophers always, you know, I'm not trying to pick on the Gophers too much today, but I know it won't be looked too bad about, you know, frowned on in this room, but I remember seeing, you know, the hot young freshmen would go into the Gophers, and they'd play a ton right away, you know, and they'd be the superstars of the team and have a great first year, and then they'd kind of just level off, and they didn't keep getting better. And I remember saying to Napper, you know, at UMD, as a freshman, you kind of earned your keep. You know, you were happy to have a jersey in your stall that night and that you were playing, and they didn't give you too much more than you could handle right away. You know, and it sounds like it's kind of similar in basketball about the, you know, I'll say it differently, but you know, playing the better players early, and typically when I was there, the older players, they were more ready for college hockey. We were 18 years old, you know, coming into play. So to play behind the older guys and let us learn slowly, and so. But I think that built for life, you know, and for my pro career after, because the pros, that's the way it is. I mean, there's a lot of guys here that played pro hockey or tried to play pro sports. Nothing's given to you, nothing's handed to you. You're not a superstar, and there's always the next person coming. They're always looking to replace you. So I think that message that you guys help teach with you know, just working hard every day and getting better and achieving, that really has helped me in life and everything I've done. So I thank you guys for starting that. You know, as I was thinking about what to say in this, you know, there's a million different ways to go, and I think, you know, being in a team sport, this Hall of Fame honorarium here is all about my teammates and everyone that I've played with in my career. Can't do it by yourself as a hockey player. So I'm going to continue to thank some other people. I'll try to keep things a little interesting. I don't want anybody to fall asleep, but I want to make sure I mention these people. So, you know, I mentioned the coaches already. Thank you for that. I see Betty here today, Terry, Hoagie, Menzo. You guys are behind the scenes, you know, the trainers and the equipment managers, but you guys work so hard to make sure that we're able to go out on the ice and perform, and a lot of people don't see what you do. But thank you for that, keeping us healthy and keeping our equipment in shape, and so we don't have an excuse when we don't play well. So thank you very much for that. All my teammates, obviously I've played 15 years. I have a ton of teammates I'd like to thank, but the ones, especially as I look around the room tonight here, you know, my D partners at UMD were Kevin Streen, Chris Miller, Rod Miller. I played a little bit with Roley. I wanted to say thanks to him because my senior year in college, I had a pretty easy job to accumulate points. I had Roley on my left on the power play, and I had Derek Plant on my right. Roley had the hardest shot in the world, so all I had to do was just lay it over him somewhere in the middle, and he'd probably score, so that was nice. And then Derek Plant, you know, was the best player in the country that year, and let's just say if I didn't pass it to him, I'd hear about it. I remember going back to the puck on many power plays, and I'd hear someone coming behind me, like feet moving, skating fast, and I thought it was someone on the other team, but it was him. And he was coming to not let me stop and start with the puck behind the net. He was coming to pick it up and take it from me. So, the funny thing is, I still get the pleasure of playing with him. On Sunday nights we play, it's kind of some men's league. It's our way of trying to hold on. And Derek's still the same way. I mean, I can hear him up on the blue line when he's, you know, I could get a breakaway if I could get it to him. And he's like, hey, 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 you know, and it's the same voice I remember when I played at UMD. And I told him, you gotta remember, I'm 43 years old. The connection from my brain to my hands and my feet aren't the same. And I know you're up there, but I'm not that quick anymore. I can't get it there. So, you know, I mentioned Derek. Joe Biondi was a good friend of mine that we lived with. You know, lifelong friend still. He's got him and his wife Kelly are godparents to our oldest daughter Elise. Just wonderful people again. I mean, we've met such great people in Duluth, and I'm so thankful for all of them. Craig Caracas is another roommate we mentioned, and Napper mentioned in the infamous story in the car. You know, I have a special thanks to him because when I retired 6 years ago from hockey, I had to make a transition. What am I going to do now, right? And Craig was in the medical field and selling surgical devices, and he said, I think you'd be great at that. I think you'd really enjoy it. And he helped introduce me to my first medical company that I worked at, and helped allow me to stay in Duluth and allow my family to stay in Duluth. So I'm very thankful to Craig for that. He helped me get started in this career. It was a pleasant surprise today. One of my advisors in the engineering department, Dave Wyrick, is here today. You know, it was difficult. Engineering was a difficult major as it was, and plus playing Division I sports. And he was very helpful in helping to rearrange labs and open up, you know, get me information in classes, not tests. But he helped me a lot, just because he really wanted to see me achieve in both hockey and academics, and so he helped me a lot. And so thank you for that, Dave, because you were instrumental. I know it was kind of a new mold that you had a Division I player in your program, so I appreciate you helping out with that. Now, my family, and when I say my family, I have a lot of families, and I'm really fortunate. You know, it starts with my Bulldog parent family when I came to school, the Trescotts. You know, it was a home away from home. On Sundays we used to go over there and have dinner, and I don't know if some of the stuff might not be legal anymore. I'm not even sure with the new rules, but they just really gave me a place away from home when I needed to get away from the university and take a little time away. They were always there for me, and in a roundabout way I met my wife Hillary through the Trescotts. She was friends with one of their daughters, so again, this path was formed, I believe, and I'm very thankful for them. My in-laws, many of you know in the room, my parents, Lance and Faye, or my in-laws, Lance and Faye, who are both were taken from us much too early. And then my brother-in-laws, Derek and Lance. They were very accepting of me from the beginning. I mean, you got to remember, I was an 18-year-old hockey player dating their sister or daughter, and she was a senior in high school. And I think now I have a senior in high school. How would I take this? You know. So I have to say, from the beginning, they were so accepting and so supportive of me, and it gave me another home away from home. You know, I was a scrawny kid back when I first came to UMD. I was 185 pounds, and I think half my body's 185 pounds now. But they sure did their best to try to beef me up. My mother-in-law was one of the greatest cooks around, and she always, I could go over there anytime and she'd cook and take care of me. So they were a very important part of our life. And then as we went into the pro career, we needed a place to stay in the summer a lot. And so we would move in with them with a new baby. So I'm very thankful for them. Obviously my own parents were mentioned before. I mean, you know, I remember my dad taking me outdoors all the time as a kid, skating at the outdoor rink for hours, practice shooting pucks and passing and skating, and I remember my mom bringing lunches up to the warming house, so I didn't have to go home to eat lunch. I'd stay up there all day, and I think that's a big part of what a lot of us did as kids. And now they get to skate inside a lot more. not as much outdoor hockey now, but and then obviously just everything they sacrificed. I know it was expensive to have me growing up as a kid playing hockey, traveling around in all the tournaments that you do, and I know there were a lot of sacrifices, and my sister too, Jenny, she probably got dragged around, and so I thank you guys for everything you did to make me who I am today. My daughters, Lisa and Bryn, you guys haven't had the easiest path growing up with all the moving we did, with a 15-year pro career in I don't know how many cities. We moved around a lot. Hillary knows exactly the number, I'm sure, 10 cities. So, you know, you guys, I'm really impressed with how you were able to adapt all the time and kind of meet any new challenges of meeting new friends and new schools and being in Switzerland and then a couple of years when I was in Europe playing, and you guys were back here going to school, and I was over in Europe by myself. You guys, you know, to do that without a dad for a while, I thank you for, I'm very proud of who you are, and I thank you guys for putting up with that lifestyle. And I know it's not easy now having an athletic dad watching over your tennis matches. That must be difficult sometimes. So thank you for, I'm really proud of you girls. I love what you've become. You're beautiful young ladies. I'm proud of you. Now I know what you're talking about, the sheets. Yeah, it's coming. Don't screw it up. And Hillary, obviously, from the beginning, you've been with me since my time at UMD. I loved you since the first day I saw you. And you've put up with a lot. With, you know, professional hockey is not always, it's not always glamorous. You know, you see the special stories, the guys that get the $10 million contracts and all that. That's pretty nice. But there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of hardships, and there's a lot of transition year to year and figuring out where your next job is, and you know, and she's always been there for me. Always been that rock that Napper talked about. And you know, I think about how much single parenting we did. When I was traveling, I remember flying home barely to make Bryn's birth, our youngest, and then getting a call from the owner that night saying, hey, we've lost 3 games in a row, you sure you can't play tonight? And then I'll give you a couple days off after that. And I left, and I went and played a game, you know, and that's just kind of the way sports were, you know, you had to sacrifice. And so my wife was always the glue that held the family together and held our home together, and she's still that way now, so I appreciate that, Hillary. And also the other thing I have to mention about Hillary, that's she is a professional box packer. We had to move a lot. she's very organized and she's very hardworking, and I never worried about that. She always said, "Don't worry, you go. If you got traded, you have to go play. You focus on your job, and I'll take care of things at home." And she's the glue that keeps us together. So I love you. I thank you for everything you do, and this honor is as much yours and my family's as, like I said, and the teammates and everything. I know I'm going on and on about these people, but I truly feel that none of this is possible without them. So it's really special. And then my last family is all of you. I've met so many wonderful people in Duluth. I look around and I know so many of you from a variety of things. We've had different touches in our life, and I just think that's the best part of being able to come to UMD. I mean, you see how many guys aren't from Duluth originally and are still living around in this area. It's amazing. I mean, I see Norm McIver here tonight, assistant GM of the Chicago Blackhawks, but he chooses to live in Duluth. That says something about this city, and I see the people here, and it's just truly a special, special place. And so I'm thankful to all of you as well, because I know you support UMD Athletics. And though I may not know you, if you support UMD Athletics, I know that you've supported me sometime, or the people that are like me, coming up now. So thank you very much for this honor. Thank you for coming today and listening to all this. I appreciate it, so thank you.
Let me ask you something before I get started here. How many of you have to go to the bathroom? Well, you can't, so hold it, right? Let me tell you this. I've been at North Dakota State longer than some of our coaches have been alive. Now, would that really resonate well with some of us? Brett, I cannot tell you how happy I am that you and Joey have a whiteboard. Joey Biondi is married to my niece Kelly. So when you talk about a great family of friends in Duluth, how important the city is to us, when you have the quality of people like the Hauer sharing your life, it really is a very special day. So thank you very much. I've learned a lot about University of Minnesota Duluth and how you conduct yourselves in that at Hall of Fame banquet. So you've done a tremendous job. So from an outside perspective, when I have a chance to go around and look, it's really been a very nice ceremony. So congratulations to you. Well, a little bit about Pati, and it is really about Pati. But on the other hand, many of us who are actively involved in education, either as a teacher or as a coach, can only hope to make the difference in the lives of those that we serve, either as a student or as an athlete. Through mentoring, through modeling, through being an example, we really want somehow to know that you're going to score and win as a Bulldog. It's the setter that puts the hand just perfectly in the hitter's position, only to go on and score and to win the championship. We know difference makers as athletes, but do we know what a difference maker is as a coach? Well, in the eyes of the public, it's about those who win. That is the benchmark of success. But I'm not really certain that that is the benchmark. And I'm not really sure that's why Pati is being inducted today. It seems to me rather that it's the intangibles that is imparted by a coach that day, that week, that month, over the next 4 years of that career, of that athlete's career, that is the reason why they are the difference makers. It's not the wins, no, it's the stories, it's the opportunities, it's the challenges, it's the ability when you leave the University of Minnesota Duluth and as an athlete that you're put in a position without a leader to know, because they've impacted you, you know exactly what to do. You know right from wrong, you know good from bad, and you know clearly as an athlete that you can endure and that you can get there. That's what I believe is the earmark and the trademark of a Pati Rolf. In her very unique way, and coupled with a style I'm sure never to be matched, you are truly the definition of a difference maker. In that you have had great number of wins, but more importantly, you have been, Pati, a positive change agent. You have assisted in shaping the lives of many women, those that are here to pay tribute to you today. You've provided your athletes with guidance in multiple lessons of life. You truly believe that one day, Pati, because you have endured and persevered, that you are going to make a difference. And they may not know it today, but they are going to know it at some point in time. You made sure that they earned their degrees. You made sure that they understood the value of education, that they received at one of the finest institutions in the nation. And so again, today, I say that's why we're being celebrated with you and for you, and this is the tribute that you've deserved. Well, beyond being a difference maker, it seems to me that you have a profile of other descriptors, of other words. You are a daughter, you are a sister, you are a wife. You're a friend to many. You're a tireless advocate for women and for youth. And certainly you're an advocate for the passion of your sport, volleyball. You've been a caretaker for those in need, and you've been a community servant, an international professional volleyball official, an alumni board member, and certainly more and more at the professional ranks. But personally, Pati, I would say you're a bit scattered. I would say that you've had troubles finding your keys. You've probably locked yourself many times out of your apartment, out of your car. You're unique, you're direct, and you're bold. And that's why we love you, Pati, because you're unique, you're direct, and you're bold. You're intense and you're competitive, and in fact, Bison folklore has it that you have won events all by yourself at North Dakota State, that you have won competitions and championships only because you rose to the occasion. You are bigger than life, your legacy is amazing at North Dakota State. But I would guess that there's two other words that we haven't talked about yet that you would cherish. And one certainly is that of being a mom. I would dare say that both you and Kent's greatest achievement would be the fact that you have two incredible children. You have Graydon and you have Maddie. It's a fascinating lunch that I've shared this afternoon with two incredible children that have been framed because of Kent and Pati. So for that, you should be truly, truly pleased. And the second one is just kind of plain and simple. It's Pati. To know who you are talking about by just using the person's first name means to me that you've arrived. At North Dakota State, when we talk about Pati, we all know we're talking about Rolf. Now, how come that happens? Why is that? Well, it's because it's Pati. Everybody knows who she is. So to you, that truly is, again, another tribute. But know, Pati, that you have not even scratched your potential, in my mind's eye, of being a difference maker. Know that your greatest legacy will surface years from now when you can reflect upon the countless ways your athletes have impacted others because of your dedication, your guidance, and your commitment. Thank you very much for asking me to share this afternoon with you, and most importantly, congratulations into your induction into the Hall of Fame as a Bulldog. It's a tribute that's well deserved. Congratulations, Pati.
All right, so talk about having notes that really, after the five of you have spoken, Kendall, Milwaukee resident, as well as myself. Son, by the way, just signed a contract to Milwaukee Public Schools as an English teacher and is now teaching English at Ronald Reagan High School. Yeah, and hopefully, if Graydon doesn't screw this up, my son, marrying Lauren Swooka Wiley, who is a special education master's degree from Marquette and is also teaching, remind me of the school now though, what school? Elementary school in a very, very difficult neighborhood in Milwaukee. Both the children are in Milwaukee schools, very difficult neighborhoods. Both children committed to helping children learn. So I am going to deviate, so I apologize a little bit. I don't want to forget, example, of course, the professional here speaker. Talk about, and not missing people, but as my players know, that's going to be nearly impossible, but you're funny. And you're just a great hockey player. So let's just straight up, that's really all that matters in the big game of life. So just a great opportunity for me to be here in front of you. Obviously we miss Gary very badly, just so young, and we've all been losing a lot of people. I don't know, when you hit about 50-ish, although Anita mentioned it was her birthday, and she said she just turned 40. And I kind of went, that means I'm in my 40s again. So we were losing a lot of people. I really want to take this opportunity to thank the city. I love this city. Kent and I came here, well, we interviewed for the job when I was 23. It's insane. talk about really, 23, I was barely ever, I couldn't, in Lynn's right, I couldn't keep track of anything. Just had graduated, was not handling that well. I don't know how you're handling being retired from professional hockey. I don't handle retiring from anything well. So I've retired from coaching. That's been a challenge, not being day-to-day going to an office, being around the great people that I worked with. But I just can't thank enough the city. I was on the school board here for 6 years. Just love the city. It was difficult to leave. I think it's one of the greatest places. We came over the hill from Minneapolis, and of course, just amazing place. A diamond in Minnesota, no question about it. And I've traveled all over the world, been to beautiful places, and I still think this city in the summer is the most beautiful place. I will tell you this, I don't miss January. And I really think that you need to get with the program, because UMD is wise to build tunnels everywhere. And what you need to do is just tunnel the whole city. And then Kent and I would move back, we really would. We said that we'd love to live here, but not in the winter. But the other thing I'd like to do is, Kristen and Jim, please, if you two could stand up, because there's some people that might not know you here, which would be impossible, because I was fortunate enough to coach here starting at the age of 24, and just had an amazing experience, and that young man took over. And he was the assistant coach of a dear friend of mine, Zonder, at North Dakota State, and just took the program and didn't even skip with the group, and brought it to a whole new level, which is what you hope every generation after you does, either as a parent, your kids. Obviously my two children have elevated the Rolf name and the Larson name, and Jim elevated the program, and Kristen. Kristen was my volunteer and just tremendously. Obviously, if you read the paper this morning, few coaches compliment the coaches that came in, and I can speak from experience, who came in before them. Few coaches give credit to the coaches that came before them. And Jim this morning just had great compliments towards me, towards the recruits we had that he took over, and I thank you for that. I appreciate it. The other thing I want to talk about is my husband, which I appreciate that so much. My husband was sent from God, or the Buddha, or wherever you're at. Because my mother, I read a note when we moved from here to Marquette, we had to go through everything. First of all, I thought money went farther, and so when Bill Court said, hey, I'll give you $5,000 to move, I thought that'd be great. When the movers came in, they said it's going to cost $10,000. I said, that's my first coaching mistake, and we had to get rid of half our stuff. I saw a note from my mother to my husband, which I had never seen before, and it said to my husband, don't let her screw this up. Which means that my mother, if she had a choice, would eliminate me and take my husband. That's her child. My husband has just been a tremendous person for me. Many of you don't realize that he has talk about a wife, and I can't imagine. I read your thing, it said 14 teams in 15 years. I mean, I read that and I went, man, that's, to be a professional player is beyond anything. To try and coach and move up the ladder is, I will tell you this, one of the biggest challenges of any coaching career. So the coaches that have made it know better. It's really difficult to build a program, and becoming more difficult now to coach because of the challenges that we face in education. But my husband, when I was here, I was on the school board too, by the way. That was crazy. It was like Norma Ray, I don't know what happened. They said run, 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 and something came out of my mouth, and apparently it was yes. He couldn't believe it, and it was probably the best 6 years of my life doing that and coaching this Bulldog team. But when I left and went to Marquette, he stayed behind and took care of the kids for a year because, of course, I wasn't normal, and I just wanted to keep him back here so I could get the Marquette program off the ground. And then we had a new administrative change, and I left and went to East Carolina. Coach was mentored, and I call it coached, by the greatest coach of all time, Terry Holland, which many of you must know who that is. He coached Ralph Sampson, was the Virginia when they won the national championship. He was my AD, 70-year-old guy, athletic director. I tell you what, someday I want to, Lynn, I got to be honest with you, that's exactly what I hope. And that's what I hope for all my women, is the fact that they will continue to lead. Terry Holland's 75 years old when we retired as an athletic director at East Carolina. One of the finest men I've ever met. And my husband, I went down to East Carolina to try to keep my career alive. He stayed back with the children because my daughter is scary. She's a frightening child. And when I asked her, hey, do you want to stay up at Burkholz Academy, continue your education, because she had some opportunities academically. She's like a great hockey player. You don't take a great hockey player from Duluth and move her to the Bahamas. And Maddie, Greenville, North Carolina is a little bit like the Bahamas when it comes to academics. And so she goes, she literally looked me right in the eye and she goes, Mom, no, I really don't want to come with you. I'd rather stay here because school's more important. And I literally died laughing. I said, I built that child, and so did my husband, and I get exactly what I deserved. Milwaukee for 4 years. I stayed at East Carolina, coached without my family, and my husband, literally my husband said, are you joking? Like, we're coming with you. That's what we do. He's a farmer. You stay with the family. I said, nope. Manny and I outvoted. It's a democracy in our house. So he was outvoted 2-1, and he actually put up with that for 28 years. And he stayed in Milwaukee and took care of her while I was running around the country trying to continue a professional career. It was the biggest mistake I've ever made. However, for Maddie, great opportunity for her at NYU with school. So my husband put up with all that. I still can't figure it out. I'm still shocked that I'm married. My entire team can't still believe that we're married. And my husband is a god, really. My 2 children, I won't say anything more. I had something in here, but I'm not going to because everybody else said incredible things about my 2 children. Really, I was not around a lot. I have to be honest with you. I was gone a lot. My son, the reason I took the Marquette job, if you really want to know, is one night my son was crying in bed, and he was little. It was probably 6 or 7 months before I left, and I heard him crying in the middle of the night. And this is weird. He never cries. My son never has cried. Since the day he was born, never cried. And I kind of snuck in there, and I kind of shook him. You know, he was a little bit asleep, and I go, what's going on? And he goes, I only have one parent. It's a true story. And I went, what? He goes, you're never home. And I just got back from a school board meeting. It was about midnight. He goes, you're never home. I only have one parent. And I went, okay, honey, Mom's going to fix that. And then I had to really think about what I was going to do. Retire, which I had said I was going to do, which obviously I don't have good follow-through. And or take a new job, and I didn't retire and got reelected. I really worked hard not to be reelected, and then I did. I didn't run. Nobody wanted to run against me. They put me on the ballot, no one ran against me, and I won, and I went, okay, I got to get out of this town because my son is going to grow up motherless. And so we took the job, and that boy has put up with more even than Maddie has. So to my 2 children is ridiculous. My parents are here. Our parents are here. Joyce and could you get, Joyce is a little hard of hearing, and so is my husband, but Joyce and Kathy, could you please stand up, because I think this is important. I'm so fortunate to have both my parents here, Kathy and Joyce. Joyce, my husband's family's from Alaska, and I just can't even believe it. So they're still with us. My father would have loved this, so thank you so much for coming. You need to know that Joyce grew up, you know, the family grew up in poverty, and I'm saying that in the sense that she raised 8 children on her own in the Rush City, Minnesota on a farm, and talk about parents working 50,000 hours. That was both of our parents. So I really appreciate you saying that because I really wasn't thinking about those sacrifices on that sense. I just know they were wonderful parents. And my father, who's passed away, would have loved this. My father loved sports. And the reason I think, Lynn, the comments that you made were so kind is really because of my mother and father. And I had a gun in my hand at 3rd grade, running around shooting, hunting. You guys that know the Frontiersman in Minneapolis, that used to be the Outdoorsman. That was my father's gun shop. And I did things as 3, 4, 5-year-old girl that nobody was doing, even boys. So I had my own little skidoo. I had my own motorcycle. I was up in, my mother half the time would close her eyes and just hope to God we all came back alive. There were 7 of us. And, but that led to what I'm doing right now. So I want to thank both of them. My brother's here, Kurt. I have a big family, and we're not all together. So to my brother who came, and then Mallory, I promised I'd say something. Hopefully a future Bulldog. She should be on the men's wrestling team or the boys wrestling team. I know we don't have one, but maybe hockey. She has not stopped beating me up since she saw me last night. So Mallory, thanks for coming. Just great having such a big family. We always had our own sports teams. My dad had teams, and his girls were the team. So we had our own softball team. All the Rolf girls were on the softball team. We had our own basketball team. So we had these pickup games. Our team was always, our girls were always half the team. To Lynn, I mean, you pretty much said it all. Lynn was a huge mentor to me from the day I walked in at North Dakota State. Pretty shy at the time, which I know is shocking now, but just incredible. And my coach, Donna Palovic is here. Coach Palovic was my coach all the way through university. She's actually now the chair at Bemidji State in Exercise Science Program, a huge mentor. Both of them are very together women. You would have thought I would have learned a little bit more of that. Donna scoped this place. She asked me, hey, where is this thing? I said, I have no idea. So last night she scoped it out and texted me the location and how to get here and what button to push in the elevator. That was my coach, so thank God for that. And just incredible people. When I struggled through my coaching career, all the way up until I think maybe last week when I called Lynn about what to do with my potential remake of my coaching career, administrative career, after this attempt to get to the Olympic Games I'm working at as an official. Both of them has just been, whenever I call, they help. And Lynn, I agree with you 100%. The one message I do, I think there needs to be messages, obviously, in every conversation, but the one thing I do want to tell all of you on many fronts is the fact that the potential we have. I mean, I hear people are retiring, and I'm trying to figure out, how can they do that? There's no way I can. First of all, with Maddie still in school, I won't be able to retire because it's going to be financially impossible. Thank you, honey. I appreciate that. But the second thing is, I want to be the guy that's 75 and retiring and helping women. I want to be the Hawaiian senator that passed out on the floor at the the Washington Capitol as he's finishing up his career. And I hope many of you think about that as well. The fact that you're coaching fourth graders. I just heard that and I went, it's the way it should be. The fact that Karen Strumry's off speaking at an event as a lead female administrator. We have to have our women doing more. We don't have enough women in leadership roles in front of girls, coaching kids, running athletic departments. Very few female coaches are coaching volleyball now. It's just not happening because we're staying home with our children. Very important to do. But you need to marry somebody like my husband. That's where we're going wrong. And we need to raise our sons to agree to stay home. I think these are all logical things. So I encourage you all to think about this. The daughters of, come on, wouldn't that be great? So you guys go out and have a pro whatever career you want to be in. Maddie wants to be, I have no idea, maybe a writer, maybe run a country, maybe Switzerland, I don't know. So you guys can go and your husbands can stay home. Yeah, be the box packers. All right? I think it's important. So Lynn, Donna, huge opportunity for me. My assistant coaches, this is a big deal because Todd Nelson, Rachel, and Anita Hansen, can you guys stand up? Rachel was a former player here, but the three of them, with Gretchen, who's not here, were my three assistant coaches. And all of them are gods because I really was, Dale, I heard you had stories, and I'm so glad you didn't tell one today because I heard rumors from the alumni that you mentioned a few things. Now, you got to understand, Dale's office was right next to mine. And I got stories for you, but that's for later. And Gary, thank you, by the way, because there were many points probably where I could have been fired. And you kept me from getting fired, you and Karen. Without you two, Mike, some of you guys others. Dale could have been the guy who came in and said, listen, I've had about enough of you, little missy. There's a few times that I think Dale was like, what in the hell did we do with this one? So I just can't thank enough, everybody that helped, and my three assistant coaches especially, tempted to keep me out of trouble. Attempted to keep the girls from quitting, maybe, who knows, probably, and amazing, especially during a time in those early years when they made like $1,000 to work full time, and I'm not kidding. Rachel, I think, made $1,000 and worked, not even, and worked full time, and Anita was a GA, worked full time as a GA, and Todd, 18 years we were together, Todd Nelson. Yeah, 19. Unbelievable. And I used to call my husband, and by the way, his name is Kent, but I used to call my husband Todd because I was with Todd more than I was with Kent. So I would be at home and I really go, hey Todd, Kent would go like this. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. So, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. To my mother that's here, Mary and Joe Siddick, the Siddick family, hopefully you know, a longtime Duluth resident. Mary was a mother, and I specifically invited her, a lot of wonderful mothers, but she's in town, and of course I invited her yesterday. So she was kind enough to come, and Mary was the one that I would do things, and Mary would just shake her head. She'd just be like, craziness. And but she always supported me no matter what brain hair thing I'd have going on. She'd have things for the girls at her house. as it's so important that you mentioned going over to people's homes. And just one of my great mothers, I had a lot of great mothers in the group. And so I want to thank all the mothers out there, and Mary, you were one of them, and I can't thank you enough. A real big thing here I really would like to bring up is the alumni who are obviously all here. My alumni, coaching is a gift, and to be able to work with and teach students, whether it's a volleyball classroom or in a math class, I've always said that teaching in a sport is just like teaching in a classroom. And everyone here has the opportunity to do it, whether you're in a rec gym, coaching 4th graders. I'm currently right now coaching 17 threes. And if you know what that means, it ain't good. So I know, Dale, you made that comment. By the way, I almost passed out laughing when you said 80% is better than 100%. I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds like 500 coaches I've had. And my 100% is what I've got right now, my friend. And my 17 threes team, just trying to coach 17-year-old girls is unbelievable. I haven't done it for a lot of years, especially the kids that really didn't make any squad. So I've got the kids that never made a squad, but they want everybody to play. So, and they should, because that's the way it should be. So I have these little girls that I'm coaching, and I was just telling a story to my alumni that I said, I don't know how, first of all, you put up with me, because I was simply trying to talk to my kids. We had a scrimmage in Milwaukee, big scrimmage with a lot of top teams. And we couldn't even seem to serve the ball over the net. Serve into the net, serve into the net. And I'm trying to bring my coaching expertise, because I believe being at Marquette, East Carolina, and Duluth gives me some expertise. And my girls were looking at me going, but coach, we don't mean to serve into the net 6 times in a row, as if that justifies serving into the net 6 times in a row. So I'm starting to talk a little bit like Coach Race, starting to get on them. And then finally I said, this is going south fast. And then all of a sudden in my brain clicked, I think probably Donna, who's a born kindergarten teacher, she could get us to do anything, because she would give us candy bars and we'd run after the candy bar. And I said to them, think about the Humane Society and kittens. Because I think about the Milwaukee Humane Society, which we always go to. And I said, if you could just save, and this is me coaching right now, last week, just think about saving, if you could save one kitten. If you can just save one kitten, and there's all the little kittens out there. And you don't have to save all of them, so just serve one ball in. If you serve one ball in, and don't worry about any of your teammates, serve one ball in, save one kitten, you've saved the world. And if everybody saves a kitten in here, I looked at all the girls, we saved all the kittens in Milwaukee. And we get it now. Save and serve a kitten. And then they did. At the end of the timeout, they put their hands up and they yelled, kittens. And off they went, served every ball in. And I went, oh my God, what are we going to do now? So I wish all of you guys good luck on that, mentoring, coaching these young kids. But the alumni, I can't tell you enough. I want you to please stand up real quick, if you could. I know you don't want to, but it's just a beautiful group of women. They're literally every era there, you guys. Every era. I've got so many stories. I wish I could tell all of them. I was going to tell a story of Annie Siddick, and the reason I'm telling only one story because I've already talked too long, and I do want to read you something that I think is really important. But the one story I want to talk about, and it's the late great Molosky, who, again, he put up with me. I made so many mistakes those early years as a coach. And kind of forgetting the idea that we're in a big department, there's a lot of other people involved. Of course, as Lynn said, it was all about me. And Annie loved birthdays, as the whole team loved birthdays. Annie loved birthdays. And of course, that was the one day, because I was young, we let things get a little out of hand. And she basically taped me up, and the whole team. Taped me up into a giant mummy. And none of the department could figure out why I would tolerate this, but you need to know the number one reason kids quit sports, or anything they do. I train all the youth coaches in the country for the US program. And the number one reason we're doing statistics now, basketball, volleyball, all the sports, they're doing it at a USOC level. They're statting why kids are quitting. And 75%, this is an important stat, it's effective as of last year, 75% of the children are quitting sports, all sports, by the age of 15. And that's a really bad number. The reason why is that all the trouble happens with children. They get in trouble, get pregnant, get in drugs, violence after school, when school's out. Or they don't go to school because, remember, as I remembered, my mother said to me, you will no longer play sports unless you get your schoolwork organized. So kids go to school because they know to play in sports after school. You got to go to school. So without sports folks, the country's in trouble. And I think that's, or music, or whatever children do. My kids aren't sports kids, but they stayed after school, music, you know, all these other activities. 75% of our kids are dropping out. And the challenge is, the number one reason they're dropping out is they aren't having fun. Now, many of us coaches would go, fun, fun, let's win. But the reality is that you aren't going to get the winners and the top players if they're not having fun. So the challenge we always have as coaches is, how do you keep fun, how do you keep the kids in it? And I think I've just been so fortunate to have the opportunity to hopefully visit with all of us here today and talk about the element of, you know, we got to keep fun, we got to keep kids in sports and activities. Okay, my final comment, and I'm hoping that you can appreciate it because as many of you are aware, well, the Green Bay Packers, of course, is God's team. So let's just be straight about that. I know. But if you can't be there, Vikings, support your neighbors, right? Okay, so let's support your neighbors. So speaking on as football, I know we're a hockey town, but speaking as football, because UMD's got an incredible football program, of course there's been a national championship won by Urban Meyer, right? I had the fortune of being at Marquette, yes, a fortune of being at Marquette. A great strength coach of mine worked for Urban Meyer at Florida, was an assistant there, strength coach, Scott Holsop, who's currently at Kansas. And Scott mentioned stuff up to me about, he'd always call me and give me all the heads up on what was going on with Urban Meyer's team, because I would implement that with my Marquette and my East Carolina teams. And he said some amazing, I mean, the man's an amazing human being. So when he retired, I thought, oh my gosh, another coach, you know, having a hard time. But the reality is he took some time off just to reorganize himself and figure out where he's going. Well, I don't know if you saw the article that came out just a few days ago, and I'm going to leave you with this, because I guess my final message with you is all women in here, for sure, I'm telling you. I don't care whether you're 70 or 2, Mallory, is that you have to get involved and support the women. Now, of course, we all love men, and we know that, okay? So men, we love you to death. And we're at every game you have. But the reality is our women need a ton of support so they become great leaders in their communities, and they can come run the country. And I'm not kidding when I want Maddie to like maybe take over as president of Switzerland, and I can move there. She can take care of me as we're broke. Your dad and I are living in poverty because of you, so just remember that. This NYU thing's killing us. So I want to encourage you to think about this. But Urban Meyer really is not just Urban Meyer, but it's everybody out there, all of us that are, you know, trying to make it. Economy's tough, trying to hold on to jobs. And Urban Meyer had something that, when he went through the difficult time at Florida, and of course many of you may not realize, but he actually had some issues, health issues, ended up on the floor. I won't go into the story, but ended up having to call an ambulance, was in hurting. He quit the sport, coaching, and came back and won a national championship here just this last week. Played Oregon, and he won at Ohio State. He has a big article out. It's about a book he read that he feels changed his life. But the bottom line is, in his office, he has 10 things that he thinks are the most important thing. And ladies, this is for you, all right? Because the important thing is that with those ladies there that I had the opportunity to coach, and really who put up with me, and Danny, that baby, I love that baby. Because, for example, I had a lot of kids who couldn't come because they had to take care of their babies. Because their husbands are out hunting or snowmobiling up north. So, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. But thank God she just said, screw it, I'm bringing the baby. Because it's, yeah, and I always had my babies. So I'm so happy the baby's here. I mean, it may be a little bit of background noise, but for me, there can be no better background noise than a baby. And I'm just so proud of the whole group over there. Impressive women, unbelievable things. But ladies, I want you to have this, because this is everything I didn't do. But these are things I want you to think about. These are the 10 things he wrote down. And this is one of the top coaches in the country. He has this in his office for every recruit to see. It's interesting. Number 1, my family will always come first. That was never the case for me. Mistake. Number 2, he writes, I will take care of myself and maintain good health. Hard to do. Number 3, I will go on trips once a year with my daughter, Nikki. I never did that. Number 4, I will not go more than 9 hours a day at the office. Who ever did that? We were at the office for 15 hours. East Carolina, I was at the office at 9:30 in the morning. I left at midnight every single day. Pretty much every day. I will sleep with my cell phone on silent. No wonder why this guy was, I can't imagine the pressure he was on. I will continue to communicate daily with my children. I will trust God's plan, Buddha, Allah, wherever you have, and not be over anxious. I will keep the lake house. I love that one. I'll keep the lake house. That's what I tell my husband. Honey, we got to keep the lake house. 9, I will find a way to watch Nikki and Gigi play volleyball, his 2 daughters. And I love his final one, I will eat 3 meals a day. And that's what he has in his office. Right now, Urban Meyer, the head national championship football coach at Ohio State. I think each of us has half or 10. I think I've been fortunate enough to have great mentors that try to help me do that. I know there's great coaches in this room, just incredible people. You know, people like Lynn, the office people, phenomenal. I just saw, there's so many people that came up to me that, that were workers at UMD that were so supportive, and I just can't thank you enough. It really was the 14 of the best years of my life. It really was. And I'm not just saying, Marquette was a great experience. Marquette's an incredible school. East Carolina was an incredible school. But there was something uniquely different about UMD in terms of the families. Like even the dinner, like it was like a down-home dinner, you know? At Marquette, we would have probably had some spring lettuce and all this high, really goofy stuff. And here it's just down-home, down-to-earth people, and I can't thank you enough. And I'm looking forward. We're all like 15 of us are coming to the hockey game tonight, guys, to support the team. And Gary, make sure you tell your lovely wife that she is the most amazing woman in the whole world. Karen and I grew up together. Anytime in the office, I was crying because I had obviously done something horribly wrong and was in trouble again. And Karen would come in and just give me some advice, do this, and many times she said, just please keep your mouth shut, and it'll go a lot better. And she was an incredible sister to me. She doesn't really know that, but just an incredible human being, and just all around. Everybody that put this on, Bob, thank you so much, and Taylor, the whole crew, put the dinner on. Everybody have a great afternoon, and I appreciate it, and all the other inductees, congratulations.
Congratulations to all our inductees. As you heard this afternoon, these were remarkable people, and they certainly deserve their spot in the UMD Athletic Hall of Fame. I'd like to bring up now the longtime Worker Sports Information Director and co-chairman of this year's Hall of Fame committee, ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Nygaard.
I'm going to have to cut this short because I think they're going to have to delay that hockey game if I don't go any quicker. Probably wonder what we do with these plaques. I know each individual gets one, but we also put them up at school. And I know people that are here with their kids, especially, maybe go up and take a picture of them. They're outside the athletic department offices. If you need directions, I suggest you get a hold of Bill Watson. The reason why Bill gets up there at least once a week to look at his, he knows the way. You're there. If you've been to these before, and I've given Marks plenty of times, I do want to point out one thing. I talked to the inductees, or at least the ones I call, and it's something we take a great deal of pride in. That's the uniqueness of this award. Since UMD opened its doors in 1930, and we've got a pretty good handle on this, something like 5,500 men and women have either coached or played for the Bulldogs. Now with today's 5 editions, that brings up the total of Hall of Fame members to 120. Do the math, that's a little bit north, just north of 2%. 2% of the entire population that you 5 are going to join that exclusive club. I'm just one member of the committee. The others are listed in the program, but since we've started this 24 years ago, it's been our #1 goal to make it truly distinct, a unique honor, and to recognize the very best in Bulldog athletics. As a current co-chair and a member of the Hall of Fame committee from day one, I've always taken an enormous amount of pride in the classes we've selected, and this year's collection of inductions is no exception. So on behalf of the UMD Athletic Hall of Fame committee,